Morning committee. We will call the meeting for Tuesday, February 21st to order. It's our last committee day before turnaround. How about that? Senator Cluse, do you have a guest today?
Yes, I do, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I have a page with me today. Lauren, who is from Blue Valley West High School. Can you wave or stand up? Say hello. Welcome.
Good morning and welcome. Committee, today we are going to take final action on bills that were previously heard. Let's start with Senate Bill 119, which you heard yesterday. Does anyone want an overview from Eileen or a reminder on that? Okay. What's the committee's pleasure on Senate Bill 119? Senator Dietrich.
Mr. Chair, I would move that we pass out Senate Bill 119 favorably for passage.
Is there a second? Senator Fagg seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Let's now look at Senate Bill 104. Senate Bill 104 was the credit card surcharge bill that we heard a week or so ago. Anybody want an overview on that? Okay, Senator Olson is ill today, and he had prepared an amendment that you have in front of you, so I would offer the, Eileen, can you give us a quick explanation of the balloon that Senator Olson had requested?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The balloon that you see in front of you would add new section 1 to the bill. This is essentially a requirement that there be disclosure language provided at the point of sale, that no person or retailer doing business in Kansas in any sales, service, or lease transaction with a consumer may impose a surcharge on a consumer who elects to use a credit card as payment unless such person or retailer complies with the following requirements. So notice must be posted that explains the surcharge. The notice needs to be clearly and conspicuously posted at the point of entry and the point of sale. And if the sales, service, or lease transaction is processed through a website or mobile device, the person or retailer shall post such notice on the home page and on the point of sale web page. And the notice required is going to be required to be in a minimum size of 16-point font. And all entities accepting credit cards for payment shall be subject to the notice requirements of subsection A that I just described. No such entity may impose a surcharge on a person or cardholder who elects to use a credit card as payment unless the entity complies with such requirements. Since we're adding this as new section 1, we're going to renumber the sections accordingly and then also adjust the title of the bill to include requiring notification to consumers of the surcharge, and I can stand for questions.
Okay, are there any questions of Eileen? Senator Warren?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just curious, in the new section 1, point of entry, is that the front door of the establishment, or do we have a definition of that? I'm just curious.
Point of entry is a pretty common term in retail. It's when you walk into the establishment.
That's what I figured, kind of what it sounds like. But thank you. Didn't know if it was a more technical term than that, but thank you.
Any additional questions on the balloon? Senator Gossage?
I have no questions. I was just wondering if you're ready for a motion on the amendment.
Sure.
I move that we pass this amendment.
Is there a second? Senator Pittman seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Okay, the amendment is adopted. What's your pleasure on the base bill as amended? Senator Dietrich.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move that we pass out Senate Bill 104 as amended favorably for passage.
Is there a second? Senator Gossage. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Okay, let's turn our attention to Senate Bill 24, which is another one that you heard yesterday. dealing with large employer and small employer for the purposes of carrying autism spectrum disorders. Eileen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the committee, I misstated myself and made an error when I wrote the memo. In paragraph 3 of the memo that I provided, I stated that the bill would change the average number of employees from 100 to 50 and would require a small employer to have 2 employees on the first day of the plan year. It's actually 1 employee. The bill you have is correct. It's my error on the memo. I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Thank you, Eileen. Any questions? Any discussion on Senate Bill 24? Is there a motion? Senator Dietrich
Thank you.
moves.
Do you want me to
Sure.
say the whole thing? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that we pass out Senate Bill 24 favorably for passage.
Okay. And Senator Gossage, did you second? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Okay, Senate Bill 27 was authorizing the Commissioner of Insurance to set the amount of certain fees. Anybody need an overview on that one? Okay, Eileen, can you give us a quick rundown on it?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senate Bill 27 essentially is the bill that would give the commissioner some leeway in setting fees with regard to resident insurance agent licensure, non-resident insurance licensure, and then public adjuster licensure. In statute, currently, there's a set fee. What the bill would do would establish that set fee as a ceiling and then allow the commissioner to decide what the fee would be up to that ceiling, and then have the commissioner publish by December 1st of the year what the fee would be for the following year and have that published in the Kansas Register.
So Eileen, as I understand it, currently those fees are set by statute, and the language says cannot exceed that, but the commissioner would then have the ability to lower those fees if she so desires.
That's correct, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions of Eileen? All right. What's your pleasure on the bill? Senator Gossage?
Mr. Chair, I move that we pass Senate Bill 27 out of the committee as favorably.
Is there a second? Clue seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Okay, Senate Bill 28, discontinuing payments to certain group-funded insurance pools, refunding existing balances thereof, and abolishing such funds, and establishing the group-funded pools refund fund. Say, that was the one that Eileen was going to say that 10 times as fast as she could say it. We still haven't got it yet. Does anyone want to recap on this? Okay, what's the pleasure of the committee? Senator Dietrich?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll move that we pass out Senate Bill 28 favorably for passage.
Okay, is there Pittman seconds? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Okay, Senate Bill 62. Anybody want to recap on it? Senator Gossage. Eileen, would you give us an overview on 62?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senate Bill 62 establishes the Protect Vulnerable Adults from Financial Exploitation Act, provides a framework within which a qualified individual may report actual, attempted, or suspected financial exploitation of an eligible adult that has occurred, and provides for immunity from civil and administrative liability for making such report. It also allows a qualified qualified individual to delay disbursement of funds based on good faith and exercising reasonable care if the qualified individual has belief that the exploitation may have occurred, as being attempted, or has been attempted, and may notify a third party designated by the eligible adult unless the third party is the one suspected of committing the exploitation. And again, provides for civil and administrative liability when that disbursement is delayed.
Okay, thank you, Eileen. Committee, are there questions of Eileen? Okay, Senator Fagg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have an amendment to this. I think everybody got a copy of this. I'll go over what that is. It's going to do two things. One, it includes broker-dealers and investment advisors as reporting persons. It changes qualified individual to now qualified person because firms are not individuals. The second thing makes the broker-dealer or investment advisor the person required to report to suspected financial exploitation under Section 3 of the bill. There was some concern that individuals at a firm may make reports and not tell their superiors or bosses. This cleans up that concern.
Okay. Any questions on the amendment? As I understand it, this has been vetted with the department and some industry partners, and I think we have agreement on it, from what I understand. So, Senator Warren?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just so I'm clear, qualified person means a person, not a firm, or was qualified individual means a firm and not a person? So,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just, and this is something that you can kind of take with you to other committees. When we say individual in a bill, we mean a human being. When we say person, it can mean the corporate personage or an individual. So it depends on how the person, that definition of person is being used, but individual always means a human being. So in this case, person can be a human being or a business entity using the corporate personage.
thank you, Mr. Chair.
Additional questions on the amendment? Senator Pittman? You want to make your motion to adopt the balloon?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that we adopt the amendment on SB 62.
Okay. And Senator Pittman seconds. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Is there a motion on Senate Bill 62 as amended? Senator Warren?
Mr. Chair, I don't have a motion, but just some discussion on the bill, so maybe it's after the motion, but
Sure.
whatever your pleasure is.
Let's discuss.
Okay, great, thank you. Appreciate the amendment. I had discussed during the hearing that I understand the intent of the bill. You know, it sounds good to protect vulnerable adults from financial exploitation. However, my concerns are that the bill as written in its current form is too broad, provides no transparency and no accountability. I went and looked at some of the definitions in the bill. We had questions during the hearing about definitions. Eligible adult. Definitions in this bill are pulled from criminal law, from, I think, elder abuse law, anyway, my concerns are this. Eligible adult means anyone over the age of 18, and I find that perhaps it could be narrowed. On line 22 of page 1 of the bill, eligible adult means an elder person or dependent adult, and if you look at the definition in that criminal statute, elder person it does mean anyone over 60, and it doesn't have the also part where you're unable to protect your own interests. So this would apply to anyone over 60, whether they can protect their own interests or not. Financial exploitation is defined in a different statute. Investment advisor. The bill deals with a certain kind of consumer, and that type of consumer is someone who is investing, buying, selling securities, and investing in securities. So we're not dealing with your regular run-of-the-mill consumer, but the type who's going to be in the world of you've hired an investment advisor, you've hired a broker-dealer to invest in securities. So it's different than the breadth of the bill, which sounds like, protect vulnerable adults from financial exploitation. Where we get to a lot of power given to the qualified person, it's this, that all you have to do as a qualified person is reasonably believe. You don't have to have good faith. That's not a requirement in Section 3 of the bill. You just have to reasonably believe that the eligible adult may have been harmed by financial exploitation that may have been attempted. May have been attempted. It's too vague, it's too broad, and my concern is that it gives your qualified persons far too much control over the assets and the ability to freeze the asset of anyone sort of 18 and over. And by freezing those assets, you're freezing the assets of the person who hasn't been accused of any wrongdoing. You're not stopping the wrongdoer. I guess you are in a way by preventing the transaction from occurring, but how that qualified person decides, is this a reportable event or not? If you look on page 2 of the bill, it talks about reasonably believes and then suspects. So if you're the qualified person, do you have to reasonably believe financial exploitation has occurred, or do you suspect that financial exploitation has occurred? In Section 5 of the bill, you may notify any third party. You're not required to notify any third party. And in fact, if you're a third party who has, you're on the account, you aren't entitled to receive the notification if you're the one suspected of the bad acts. So it's a lot of discretion for our qualified persons as defined in the bill. No accountability, there's no civil liability, there's no administrative liability, which I find is a concern. We have up to 25 business days that the Securities Commissioner could delay the transaction. 25 business days is in essence 5 weeks, that's over a month. And if you had asked for the transaction to occur and it's delayed for 5 weeks, and in the meantime, it turns out that would have been a good investment and you're out, however much money you're out, had the transaction gone through, you have no recourse against the qualified person. The delay may be extended on page 3 at line 7 by an order of a court of competent jurisdiction. My question is, how do you get to a court of competent jurisdiction if there's no civil liability for the person whose the funds have been delayed, the transaction has been delayed? However, the Securities Commissioner can go to court and request an extension of the delay of the disbursement. So again, no accountability and no transparency. There's no requirement that the communications between the qualified person and the Securities Commissioner or law enforcement, which the disclosure is required to be made to, that's not subject to Open Records Act for the person who has had their transaction delayed. So a lot of concerns. Again, I understand the intent of the bill. For me, in its current form, again, too broad, no transparency, an internal review process that even you, the person whose assets are being impacted, you don't have any control. And again, this is a certain type of consumer we're dealing with, someone who's transacting business in the securities market. So it's not your run-of-the-mill that might fall within the Consumer Protection Act. And we do have a statute, abuse, neglect, or financial exploitation of certain adults. That's Chapter 39. And we do have the crime in Chapter 21 of mistreatment of a dependent adult, mistreatment of an elder person. So we do have tools in place regarding this. So those are my thoughts, just some concerns about the current form of the bill. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Pittman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm gonna concur with Senator Warren on this. I feel like we've got a substantial amount of this is a little bit different than a lot of the bills we handle that can go through pretty quickly. That's been introduced by the commissioner, the insurance commissioner, and I know the intent is very, very good and thoughtful. And we know that this is a method that's being sought. However, we just heard it last week. I'd like to see some personal, some civil liberties, personal liberty type lawyer look at this as well. And I've heard some concerns from industry partners as well. And I feel like it just needs a little bit more time, Mr. Chair, that we can do something to address the concerns that Senator Warren's brought up. I would ask the chair if we can work on this next year and maybe take some time on this one. I wouldn't want to strap you down, though, and have it table this, because I just want to see if we can wait to work this a little bit more to understand some of the issues that Senator Warren brought up and some of the industry partners have brought up.
Okay. Any other discussion? Senator Cluse?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I would echo my colleagues on this. I do have just a couple of questions, just for some clarity, though. So the qualified individual, is that just an individual, or did we say that could be the person or a firm? So in this particular, where she's making reference in page 2, line 7,
On the balloon that was adopted,
okay.
on page 2, line 7, individual is stricken and person is put in there, which could mean an individual, it could mean a corporate entity, according to the definition that Eileen gave us earlier on person.
Okay, so that person or individual, I guess the language of the reasonably believes, and then drop it down to 15 again, good faith and exercise. And I think those are vague, because how do they determine that? How do they determine, well, I reasonably believe? On what basis? I think that needs to be spelled out more. It seems vague to me. Who decides what's reasonable belief? That person, that group, and based on what? Does that make sense? Okay.
Okay. Additional discussion? Okay. I'm not feeling warm and fuzzy. And so I think we have a couple of different actions. I will have a conversation with the Senate President and see if possibly 62 could get blessed and give us some time to clean it up. I will tell you that he has stated to all of us chairs that he doesn't intend to bless bills, but maybe he'll make an exception. If not, then we'll continue to work on it. And I don't know whether there's a House companion or not that could be worked on, but we'll see where we go from here. That is all of the bills that I intended to work today. Senator Gossage, you have a guest that's arrived.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I do. I'd like to introduce you, if you could wave or stand, Austin Chase, wonderful young man from DeSoto. Welcome to the Senate.
Welcome. Okay, committee, that completes our work. I want to thank each and every one of you. We've covered a lot of ground since the beginning of January, and we will begin working on House bills next week. We have a couple of exempt bills that we can work on that were introduced in other committees that have been assigned to us. So once we get back from turnaround, we'll get after it again. So with that, we're adjourned.